Let's go ahead and bring in U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for taking time with us. This nearly $1 billion weapon shipment is headed to Ukraine. At the same time, President Trump says he wants a peaceful resolution to the war. As we mentioned off the top, it's nearly 2 weeks since he told Vladimir Putin and the world that he wanted him to sit down, one-on-one, face-to-face with President Zelensky. No word as of yet. How much longer do you think President Trump is going to give him?
Well, obviously, President Trump is going to give him as much time as he thinks it's necessary to create the right situation. And I think one of the things you mentioned, in addition to the $1 billion in arms that have been sold directly to Ukraine, there's also, U.S. is selling about $1 billion a month through our NATO allies that are being provided to Ukraine. And so President Trump's making sure, one, that Ukraine can continue to defend itself, and by giving them some deeper strike capabilities that obviously could help them offensively. They've already taken out about 20% of Russia's oil refining capacity in the last month. And at the same time, he has so many other cards to play. The Indian sanctions just took effect this week. They clearly are working. India is most likely going to change their behavior in buying Russian oil. So, President Trump knows all the cards he has still left to play, but he also understands that he needs to keep Vladimir Putin at the table as well as Zelensky at the table. And we'll see, is it going to happen overnight? Most likely not, but I think we're on the right path, and both sides are still talking, and that is a good thing.
So it sounds like, from what you just said, President Trump is arming the Ukrainians with U.S. military hardware. He is pursuing diplomacy kind of, behind the scenes. At the same time, he is also imposing sanctions intent to hurt the regime financially. How is any of that different from the Biden administration's strategy?
Well, quite frankly, it's all different. First of all, those weapons, the U.S. weapons that are now being used on the front lines of the war in Ukraine are not being paid for by the U.S. taxpayers. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we are talking with the Russians. That was not happening during the Biden administration. And finally, we're giving some deeper strike capabilities, and most likely the Ukrainians are going to use them. And that obviously is much different than what Joe Biden did. So you take all of those together, Donald Trump has created an entirely different scenario, has brought Vladimir Putin to the table to have some discussions. Are they complete? No, but the sides are still talking. They're exchanging prisoners. There's a lot of good news, but we all want this war to end. This is not Donald Trump's war, but he